camera. So we have more.
Write it down. We're getting behind.
We're more Stewart stories. Stewart, you just have the treasure trove of stories, do you not?
Well, I do, and why? I've lived a boring, stupid life. And the fact that the toes are pointed suggestively towards the Coca-Cola logo is also brilliant. That's brilliant advertising. But you're driving past this thing on the freeway, all you know is it's an ad for Coca-Cola. You don't see the rest of it. You can't if you're driving past it on the freeway.
This is what Stewart was faced with once when he was returning home from working summer theater to his home in Albuquerque. He opened the door, and this is what he was confronted with. His friends at that time had honeycombed his house with thread.
Somewhere. It might still be on video. I thought I had something on DVD, on DVD, but because it seems to me we did end up with something on DVD. But I have so much shit.
Stories, I don't care if anybody else likes them.
Well, I laughed because, I don't know, the story is amusing to me. I'm not sure that story would be interesting to anybody else.
Well, you'll never know till you
It might
try.
be interesting to a theater person that gets it.
Hey.
So, I put this purchase order through into the office. I took it to the first place, placed it in the little basket for 24 gallons of flex glue. I waited for my purchase order to come through so I could take it to Ford and get the flex glue. And I did this 3 months in advance. I knew I was going to build this big thing, and so I waited and I waited and I waited, and I never got my purchase order. So I went back and I said, what happened to my purchase order for flex glue? And the first person I talked to had no idea what I was talking about. There was no record of it whatsoever in that office. So they sent me to the next office. And I went to the next office. No idea. Went to the third office. Absolutely no idea where this purchase order was. So I said, well, okay, I'm going to have to start over and run another. Now it's getting kind of late, and I need this right now. So I walked a second purchase order through, personally, office to office to office. I said, will you sign off on this? Will you sign off on this? It's been months now, and I already did this once, and you lost it. So I made them do it because I needed it now. In the meantime, I would get a pile of mail every day addressed to the theater department. Some of it was kind of cool. I would get textbooks, theater textbooks. I would get Roscoe would send me a complimentary scene painting brush. You know, I got cool stuff. Occasionally, most of it was just junk. But this one day, I'm going through my mail, and I come across this letter addressed personally to me in the theater department, and I thought, well, I'll open this and see what it is. It was a letter from the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And so I opened it up and I started reading it. And they said, Dear Mr. Dawson, we've recently received a purchase order from the University of Albuquerque for 24 gallons of flex glue. And this letter was hysterically funny. And it said, I probably saved it somewhere. I probably got that letter somewhere. They said, not only do we not sell flex glue here at the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, but we don't even know what it is. And I'm going, what the hell? Characters are dead people in the script. Now, I remember distinctly, you've heard of the mummies of Guanajuato.
Right.
Well, I remember distinctly that apparently there's a sect of Mexican people or whoever that take their loved ones into a, some kind of underground catacomb in their Sunday best after they're dead, and they just prop them up. And there they dry out. And they come, I guess they go in there to visit Uncle Juan every now and then. Tio Juan. And there he is, all propped up in his Sunday best, all dried out, mummified. And then, if I told you this story already, stop me. But I remember this book that I saw once. I wanted to do something with mummies, with mummified images on the stage as the set. And this was an opera that Galloway wrote. I watched this rehearsal over and over and over again, and I never understood a goddamn thing that was going on. It made absolutely no fucking sense to me. It was he wrote this opera from a book that some woman had written in the early part of the 20th century about these dead people in this crypt. And I presented this to Sally, and I said, I want to do something with. I remember the images from this book of these mummies. The book was called The Mummies of Guanajuato. And I saw it in a bookstore once, years and years before this. And the front cover was unforgettable. I mean, right away you wanted to look at this book because the front cover was a picture of one of these mummies. And there's a museum in Guanajuato where they've taken these mummies out of the crypt and put them in a museum for people to look at in little glass boxes. So there's a whole museum filled with mummies that you can go look at of these dead Mexican people. It's a very strange idea, but whatever. Nothing is strange enough for me at all. So I wanted to find a copy of this book. And I started calling around. I knew it was probably out of print. It was years and years before this that I saw this book in the bookstore. And I'd only seen it that one time. I thumbed through it in the bookstore. I didn't buy a copy of it. But you would never forget it. And so I started calling around, and I could not, nobody had it. Nobody even knew what I was talking about. And I said, well, it's an oversized paperback. If you saw the cover of this book, you would not forget it. You'd know exactly what I was talking about. Couldn't find it. And this was back in the 90s. And the internet was new to me. It was fairly new to everybody. And so I was trying to locate a copy of this book on the internet, but that wasn't working at all. And you didn't have the internet back then. You had the rudiments of search engines like Dogpile or whatever, right? That wasn't helping me. So it was basically calling every bookstore in town to try to find a copy of this. And I went to used bookstores that weren't even in the phone book. I tried to find every bookstore in town to see if they had a copy of this book. And all I had to do is describe it to them, because they would know immediately if they had a copy of it. Couldn't miss it. Couldn't find it. I called bookstores in Denver. I called bookstores in Phoenix. Absolutely nothing was coming up. And I'm going, oh shit, well, so much for that idea. I don't know where I'm going to find this now. Well, at the absolute end of my search, you know where Jubilation Spirits is? Well, I don't know if it's still there, but just west of there, across the street from there, there was a little row of shops. And in that row of shops, there was a little tiny used bookstore. And I don't know how I got the number of it. Maybe it was the last one in the yellow pages, whatever. But I called this guy up. It was a absolute last ditch attempt. Here's what he says to me. I described the book. He says, "No, I don't have anything like that here." He'd never heard of it. I said, "Well, you would know it if you had it." He said, "Yeah, it sounds like it." He says, and then he says to me, "But," he says, "but I just got some boxes in the other day that I haven't opened yet. Maybe it's in there." Sure, pal. Like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. He's just trying to be helpful, right? Okay. I said, "Well, here's my number. Call me if you ever, if you find anything in the next few days, because I need it now." The next morning, my phone rings, and it's this guy from this little bookstore. And he says, "Well, you won't believe it, but the very first box I opened right there on top was that book." I'm going, either this guy's joshing me, he's fucking with me, or this is the most bizarre thing that's ever happened to me. I said, "I can't believe it." I said, "I cannot believe it." He says, "I couldn't believe it either. Just like you described it, there it was sitting right at the top of this box." And I said, "Hold it for me. What do you want for it?" He says, "Oh, I don't know, $20. I said, "I'll give you 25. I'll be right there." The opera was paying for it, right? So I ran down to the bookstore immediately.
Was the opera gonna sing it as mummies?
Yeah. Well, the characters were dressed up in frilly outfits or whatever, and there's 5 or 6 characters in the opera of different ages, different sexes. So, knowing the characters in the opera, I thumbed through the book and basically found images of people that they might have been in their mummy lives. Don't hit my fence, don't hit my fence, don't hit my fence! Sheesh! Oh my God. This pickup truck just backed up and was backing up really fast. I thought they were going to run right into my fence. Fuck, and I had a dream just like that, that a car barreled through my fence one day. Shit. Anyway, what I did was I copied these pictures and made them transparencies, black and white transparencies. And then I projected the transparencies with an overhead onto these panels that I had built at 4x8 panels. I still have one out. In fact, it's the one that I call Carter, because it looks like Carter all dried up. And what's interesting about these mummies is that they dried out like this. And so their mouths are wide open and their teeth are exposed and their lips are all peeled back and dried out and stuff, They look like they're opera singers singing. And each one had a crypt stand in front of it. And they were mounted to these little boxes that people could sit on or, And I think the show opened with them sitting there like they were dried up mummies, and then they got up and started singing.
But to the end result, you still have no idea what the play was about.
Not at all. Not at all. Not even remotely. Completely, if I can use the pun, cryptic.
So did the script specify rain at intermission?
Yes, the script specified all kinds of shit. And it didn't say the illusion of rain. It didn't say, and then, okay, opening night. This was, I think this might have been Morley's swan song. I think he was retiring. And the mayor, it was Mayor Kenny, through a party, he lived out on the West Mesa, fairly kind of close to where the university was. View of the city, he had a house up there on the bluff. And he threw a party for Morley and the company at his house. Fuck, after the show we were going to a party at the mayor's house. That was cool. That was kind of a cool thing. And Galloway, who I didn't have anything against Galloway. He was insane. I mean, he was a nut. He was just plain simply a nut. And he came up to me after that opening night, and he said that was the worst technical production I've ever seen in my life, and then he just walked away from me. And I had worked my ass off on all that shit. I worked my ass off. I was there 14 hours a day trying to get that done. Carving gravestones and making that fucking comet and then taking all these pictures and slide projections and God damn it, I worked my ass off on that thing. I went out into the mesa and pulled up weeds that I could put around the gravestones to make it look more realistic. And dirt, I had dirt up there and everything, and it was just... And I guess I was just too naive to sit there and say, no, I'm not going to do it that way. We do this metaphorically. We don't do it realistically. Stupid to even think of such a thing. This ain't fucking Broadway. And I should have stood up and said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to make it wet. I'm not going to make it really rain on stage. That's what Morley insisted. I want to see real rain.
Well, like I said...
And I knew Morley by that time. I mean, I knew Morley well enough to be able to stand there and say, fuck you. No, it's not going to be real rain. That's stupid, completely unrealistic. And yet I tried to make it work for some completely unknown, insane reason. I tried to make it really rain on stage. I'm so glad that it didn't. I'm so glad that the whole thing that I built and hung over that whole stage didn't work. Because it would have just been awful. It would have created an awful mess. The actors would have hated it. Fuck. And so after Galloway said that to me, I mean, it was really cutting and insulting. And I don't blame him because it was awful. Well, no, it wasn't completely awful. The comet, which was the end of the show, was stupid. And it never worked right. I could never make it work right. I couldn't get the kids that were fooling with it to make it work the way I wanted it to, or make them do what I wanted them to. And I'm yelling at them, and they don't know why I'm yelling at them. And it was just awful. It was just, everything was awful about it. And Galloway hated it. And maybe he was joking, but I didn't take it as a joke. Didn't sound like a joke. And it hurt my feelings so much, and I should have just made me angry. Everybody left to go to this party at the mayor's house.